picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Welcome back, friends. It is the first weekend in May. It is time to do some model working this weekend. I'm going to continue work on the Raptor, and we're going to start work on the Eagle. Yes, I've been promising it for a while, and this is the weekend that we finally do it. It's all kinds of crap rainy outside. You know, not bad for our, Seattle, but for Raleigh, we're kind of used to a little bit drier than this. So I'm going to stay inside and work on models this weekend. Let me show you the state that the table is in. Okay, you see two distinct piles of parts here, and on your right is the Raptor, and we are hoping to get some of the brown on this weekend. May not get everything closed up because there's a lot of work that needs done on the interior, and frankly I don't have all the tools I need to do that yet, so we're not going to be getting to all the consoles and whatnot, but I am going to be doing a lot of the exterior work. The great design of this kit is that you can build it very modularly and then put it together in big stages, so that's what we're doing. And now for any of you who might recognize what this pile of parts is, this is the start of the Eagle kit. What I'm doing is cleaning up these parts so that I can put together the passenger module. I'm not going to glue the floor in, but I need it to kind of steady up the other walls as I build them so that I can paint it and then paint the stripes on it and all that kind of stuff, and then put the window glass in last. So I need to get these walls cleaned up and get them built. So let's do that. Okay, as you can see, we have put the Raptor to the one side for the moment, and we're getting back to work on the Eagle. And to quote the pilot Jacques in the first Indiana Jones movie, it's time to show a little backbone. So we're going to I've got all the parts out that I need to finish building the backbone. So that's what we're going to do next. There's a lot of repetitive building that has to do with the Eagle. 4 times this, 6 times this, whatever. So it's going to help to get just an assembly line going on all the parts you need to build the various sub-assemblies. So let's start with this. We got a nice even glass surface to build on so that we know that things are flat when they are being held up to dry. So I've got the two sides together. I've got the parts needed for the rest of the spine, so let's do a little spinal tap. Okay, the spacers have been put in here, here, and here on both ends, and I'm going to let this dry for a bit, let it set up, and then it's just a question of filling in all of the rungs on the top and on the bottom, and then do a little bit of sanding. Actually, I've been sanding the rungs as I need to go in. Now there's a little bit of mold seam that needs to be taken care of, so best to do that before you start getting to places where you can't put the sandpaper or the sanding stick in. So we do that as we go, and then once this sub-assembly is built, we can set it aside and start doing the other assemblies that are, like I said, the assembly line stuff, the engines and the pods and things like that they're building multiples of. And sub-assembly continues. I am trying to get up a bunch of pieces that I can get done, get sanded, and get primed. Now there is a box of greebly bits like this that goes inside of an outer cage, and what I want to do is get those built and painted before I put the cage bits around them, because you're not going to be able to get into it after you're trying to wheedle a little brush inside. So getting those sanded and painted first will be the way to go, and I am trying to, like I said, do up as many little sub-assemblies as I can of things before I need to start slapping the big bits together. So that's where we are. And the assembly line work continues. In my particular case, I have mucho flash to clean off of these rounded girder bits before I can glue them up. once these are glued, I'll probably put a drop or maybe a drop or two of either an epoxy or a thick glue, some sort of thick glue in there to just reinforce these joints and fill in the little gaps before I do any priming. But like I said, that's a lot of flash. And I'm back. I had lunch and a movie, and I am refreshed and ready to go on this afternoon's build. I need to do a little bit of changing of the guard here. I need to take all of the stuff that I've got built and prime it. So I need to take it outside and prime it, and then I need to clear the deck so that I can bring some of the stuff from the Raptor that I did prime in so that I can start painting the top coats on it. So let me do a little bit of the old workplace shuffle, and we'll get back to it. Okay, I've got the masks in place, and I am ready to commence with some browning. Then we will be able to do more construction, but I've got the masks on, and we are ready to apply the brown paint. And now the Raptor is suitably browned. Now this is just a base coat of brown. It is the flat earth. For those of you who don't think it's round, it is the flat earth from Tamiya. But it's a base coat because I'm thinking that it's a little too dark. And what I've got is some buff that I'm going to mix with that to do some highlighting and some paneling and that sort of stuff. So we're going to let this base coat of brown dry. And then we are going to do some more construction, and after we remove the masks, we'll see what kind of shape we're in. But now I can let all this stuff dry and get back to the mass production on the Eagle parts. But this is where we're going to leave it for this evening. I've got all of the pods at least constructed. I don't have the bottoms on them. I want to put some reinforcement in there with some liquid epoxy, and I'll probably do that before I turn in this evening. And there are all the engines. The engine bells they need to be sanded and of course they're primed. Still plenty to do, but I'm getting to the point where I'm rushing through things, and I really don't want to do that. I want to take my time and do these properly. So this is where we're going to sit it, and tomorrow I think we should be able to get this entire module painted with the red stripes on it and everything. That'll be fun. And of course, lest you think I am rushing through the build and don't have much left to put on here, these are all the parts I still have yet to go, so there is a gracious plenty. I probably won't even get to all of the piping that goes to the engines this weekend. I'll be lucky to get the pods and maybe the main cages done. Still have to figure out what I'm going to do with the windows on the bottom, since I don't believe those were ever meant to be lit windows, but they didn't give us any solid pieces here. They gave 4 clear pieces, which may have saved on tooling, but it's going to make it for a little bit of a difficulty. And I really want to work that joint nice and clean, so I'll have to decide whether it's worth putting the 2 halves together and then fitting the windows in, or fitting the windows first and then putting the 2 halves together. I want to be able to keep those windows as clean as possible for as long as possible, so we'll have to see. But that'll be tomorrow's work. As you can see, there's a gracious amount of it done. And what you don't see is what I have primed, the spine, backbone part, and some other parts that are drying in other places in the house. Okay, it's Sunday morning, folks. Yay! Work is progressing on the Eagle and the Raptor for this morning. Now I have gotten up and already started working. I did what I was going to do last night and didn't get around to it. I've put some 1-minute epoxy in all of the joints there. And I'm going to take some, fairly fine sandpaper and just knock down these corners and these edges where the pieces overlap. There's a bit of a sharpness there that I don't like. So I'm going to let that epoxy set up and then decide whether or not to glue the bottoms in yet or not. I think I want to start working on the landing gear first to see how they coordinate with this before I go too far down that rabbit hole. But this morning what I want to do is, before I get into the rest of the day, is put a coat of white on, or this is not white, this is actually very light gray. This is Model Master light gray acrylic. And I'm going to put that on the passenger cabin, so I can get a crack at getting the red stripes on here today. That's something nice and big and colorful, and I can do that today. So let's get cracking. Okay, and here you can see I've just done some under shading. Took some Lynn Gray, which is the Lynn Gray, and just hit with a card piece of plastic, just drew in some lines, and that's over top of the first coat of the light gray. I'm going to let this sit for a while and come back and sand it off a bit, and then start building up the white coat. Then it's going to be its final, and once that's built up, then I can mask that for the red. So pretty simple stuff. Okay, I've got a little bit of time left this morning, so what I want to do is lighten up the brown here on the Raptor, and what I'm going to do is mix up about a half and half of buff and the flat earth that I was using yesterday, and buff it up a little bit. Okay, this is much more the color I wanted. You may not be able to tell the subtle differences here. There's the differences on camera, so you can see, I can see from here that this is a lot creamier and lighter, more ochre. This is a darker brown. So let me get a good base coating. Well, let me show you. I can maybe put that on top. It's not showing up. There you go. There you can see the difference. So it's coming up a little lighter, which is what I want to do. Well, that's certainly better. It's had a darn good buffing, flat earth and buffing mixture. So that's a much better base coat than I had before, and it's the richer for it because it went over that darker color, which means there is that undertone, because you don't always hit everything with the same intensity of spray when you spray it the second time. So it's got the flat earth undertones going on in it. So now I should be ready to do a little more construction on it and actually get into some aging, like all this mess that's going on back here. I wanted to paint that before I stuck this part over, because I would never be able to get the paint in there. And now I can think about scuffing that up a bit and start to do some construction. Well, welcome back. It is Sunday afternoon. It's Mother's Day, so give your mother a hug. If she's not in the same city as you, give her a call. And if you're living in her basement, get out and get a job already. We are down to what I can do on a Sunday afternoon, and I've got 3 distinct jobs that I want to do, and I have to decide which of the 2 I stand the best chance of finishing. I need to make templates for all of the console, or all the instruments in the Raptor. That's job 1. Job 2 is I want to build at least the back part of this Raptor. I'm not going to get all of it done because I can't put the sides of it together until I have the interior cabin done. So, but I do want to do some construction and some finishing, which means finishing the engines and the back half of the Raptor. So that's job 2. Job 3 is getting the red. Get some red on it, to quote Simon Pegg from Shaun of the Dead. I want to get some red on it. This is ready to go. This is kind of ready to go. I'm going to flip a coin to see which gets my attention first, but I think it's going to be this. Okay, I've got the mask removed from the engines, and you can see where, yes, there's still some touching up that needs to be done because these little bits overlap into the brown rings, but that was the idea. It's, quick masking, and then you go back in and you touch things that overlap. So I'm going to dry brush some of this and then put some the smoke in behind it to really greebly that down, and we'll get on with it. That didn't take very long at all. Maybe half an hour or 45 minutes. And I am to the point where while it's not completely done, it is glued together and painted and somewhat weathered to the point where I want to set it aside, and I will come back and do overall weathering later, and maybe bring up some highlights there. But all the parts are glued together and they are drying, and looks pretty darn good, I think. Still need to dry brush some accents, but now that I can see what parts are actually going to be visible, now I know what parts to accent. But not bad for the back half of a Raptor. People who don't give a Raptor's tail, I give a Raptor's tail, and there it is. So now we go to the consoles for the inside of the Raptor and the stripes for the Eagle cargo module. Okay, and here we have the consoles, the inside of the Raptor, not the cockpit, but the back where all the business gets done. Well, this is the cockpit. Actually, these two bits right here are from the cockpit, and this is from the back. Anyway, I've got all the templates measured for the different screens, and what I'm doing, you ask, why is it painted white? Well, it's belt and suspenders, because I don't know, because this is a test shot, I haven't seen the actual decals. And for those people who don't want to light this, or it's kind of tough because it is, it's an opaque piece. You'd have to bore all these out to light them. The decals, to make them pop extra bright, I want to have a white background behind them. I don't know if the decals are backed in white. Moebius has kind of gone both ways with their decals in the past. I'd rather not get caught by surprise. So what I'm going to do is paint all of these white, and then I'm going to block out the console, or the screens, just the screen parts of it, and then I will paint the gunmetal, which is the rest of the color of the consoles. Or it's a weird gray. It's a grayish, green, khaki-ish type of thing. So I'm sorry about all the ums, but rather than take the chance that the decals might not show up against them very well, I decided to make templates for the screens. I'm going to let this dry now for an hour or so, and I may not be able to show you that on today's report because it is getting fairly late in the afternoon. I'm thinking that I want to spend remaining time on something showy, since I did get the back of the Raptor done, and I've got that far along the way. I think what I might want to do is paint a red stripe or two on this. Wouldn't that be fun? I've got all the templates cut for those. All I need to do is lay them down. Okay, I'm ready to paint this side of the red stripes on this side of the pod, and if it works, I will show you step by step how I did it when I go to paint the other side, which I have not done yet, but I want to see if this works first before I go blathering. Just like the inside details on the Raptor, where I said I was going to use a white backing, I want to use a white backing behind the Alpha decals that go here, just in case. Just belt and suspenders. It will make the decals that come with the kit pop that much more. So this is a little smaller than the actual decal, so that you don't worry about having a white space around your decal. But since these open areas are going to be painted painted red, and that's a heavy color, decals sometimes don't show up well against red. So like I said, belt and suspenders. It's possible the decals are backed in white anyway, but just in case they aren't, a little added extra area of protection. So let's get ready and spray this one side. Well, you've got some red on you. Yes, the red is on this one side. So we will see. I'm going to let it dry for a little bit before I pull this vinyl off, and then we'll see how she turned out. And here it is with the tape removed. I think it came out pretty darn good. Some things I'm going to do a little bit differently on the other side, but all in all, the proof of concept works. So I can go ahead and tell you the methodology for the other side. Some of this shading I'm not wild about, but I will work on that. And there's a bit of a splash here that I need to get rid of, but I can white back over top of that without touching anything. So let's get on with marking out the second side. Now, this there are 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are 9, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, there are 9 stripes. And the 9 stripes are about equal length or equal width. They're about 7/8 of an inch. It's a hair over 7/8 of an inch. Or hair under 7/8 of an inch. So what I've done, and they're sometimes tough to mark out, so what I've done is made the stripes on the template set the appropriate width. So if you go stripe, 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 and then pull off the centers, you will have the right amount of space between them. You start with both ends being the color and the center being the color, and then these kind of fill in. What I do is I go from each end into the center and let this one take up the fudge factor. You're never going to notice the difference because this shape, or this particular stripe, goes over top of the door, and it's so much narrower than, or sorry, so much less of the stripes since you don't paint over the door. You only see the top and bottom of the doorway. So if it's a little bit off, you're not going to notice it that much because once you put these pieces in, there's very little of the stripe left. So let me show you exactly how it works. Now what I'm going to include are the stripes you need to lay down, and then I'm going to include some extra pieces that are the same width so that you can use those, what I'm going to call them as spacer blocks really. So let's get started. Okay, we're starting on the second side, and I'm starting by putting the spacer blocks in. These are only temporary. They will get removed almost immediately. I'm looking at making sure I have what I need out here. We put one in this corner that lines up with the edge here and the edge along the top. This is going to be where the red area is painted. I'm only using this because this measurement here is the one I'm looking for. Here and here. So now I'm going to put the longer white blocking pieces here and here. Okay, now the first actual blocking stripe has gone in. It is butted up against the spacer, and it is following the straight line or the perpendicular line across the top edge. And then you carefully wrap it around the bottom, making sure that you don't skew it one way or the other. And I do that on both sides. Now that that piece is in, I'm going to remove the spacing block and move it down here so that I can continue this line. Okay, I've moved the spacing blocks down from here down to here, and from there down to here. Now I can continue the putting the stripe in. Okay, now the second piece is in. I'm sorry if this is getting a bit redundant, but I want to show you what my thinking is. The second piece is right here. It butts up against the spacer, and it goes up against this line right here, which continues the line straight down, and then you wrap it around very carefully, this change of contour. Okay, now the first set of stripes are in the whole way, all the way around top and bottom. So now we just repeat the process. We get another spacing block, and we put that up against, and then we work our way in from both sides. Put another spacing block here, and then we continue the method all the way down. Now the reason, if I haven't said this before, I'll say it again. The reason this is not one big stripe of vinyl is because of all of these contour changes. It's easier to work with a smaller set of pieces than it is to try to make one big long stripe, go in and out all of this contour. It's more likely to want to travel back and forth or stretch or anything like that. So it's just easier to use it in smaller pieces, and because we have so many flat perpendicular shapes to work with. There's one, there's one, there's one, there's one. It's easy to line those up and make sure your stripe is continuing to go straight if you use those as references. Okay, ready for the second and final side. Yay. These are the, oops, no, we're not ready. I have to put the Moonbase logo masks in place right here and right here first. Then we'll be ready. But you can see the tape is wrapped down around, it's covering the door. It's wrapped all the way around to the bottom. And these are the areas that are going to stay white. So let me get those masks on. Okay, the masks for the alpha-based logos are in place here and here. So now we are ready to paint. Now I'm going to do one last time. Am I going to run my wee little fingernail, such as it is, into these cracks to make sure, around these edges, to make sure that these lines are nice and crisp and clean, and overspray won't get where it's not supposed to have gotten. So let's throw some red paint at it. Okay, now it's time to take these stripes off. Now, unlike well, because they overlap each other, they will come off in one piece where they went on in many pieces, because I overlapped them. So they should come off at one chunk. I am very carefully going underneath it with an X-Acto, just enough to get it started. And I am going to remove this one swoop. Okay, this is ridiculous enough to try to do with one hand. So you've seen how it works. Nice, clean, beautiful lines. I'm going to go ahead and take off the remaining tape. And there we go. One nicely candy striped rescue module. Going to go back in and touch some of the white to get rid of some of those smudges, but and obviously both ends need some work, but there you go. Nice clean red stripes. And you know what I've always said about red paint being a very potent color. You just have to get one stray dot of it somewhere to really ruin your day. So there you can see nice straight crisp lines. And that's going to do it for the work on the eagle for this weekend. Okay, looking over this desk and surveying all that I have done this weekend brings me down to one last bit of business, and that is painting these consoles. I have got the masks in place over the bits that I wish to keep white, and now it's just a question of painting, and I think I'll do these chairs while I'm at it, but to paint the gray over top of some of these other bits. And that's the last thing we'll do for this weekend. Well, as the sun sinks slowly into the west, we will finish up another weekend here. I got quite a good amount done this weekend. Had a little bit of an extended Sunday evening. Worked later into the night than I normally do, but made great strides. The Raptor, the back end of it is done. Outside of, the general weathering and stuff, but I mean the construction's done, the majority of the painting is done. The outside of the Raptor pretty much is done. I've got the color on it that I like. Working on the interior, gonna get that. I got the masks all done for the inside, and that's gonna just be a matter of finishing it up. It's gonna move along. No reason not to finish that next weekend. The Eagle, wow. Got a lot done on the Eagle. Got the masks done for the cargo pod, the rescue pod, I guess in this instance, since it's red and white candy stripes. Got the stripes painted on that. Got a bunch of construction done on the Eagle. A lot of the small repetitive stuff. Got all these done, with the exception of doing the landing gear in it, but moving along quite well. As a matter of fact, I wanted to slow myself down so I didn't finish too much this weekend. Still have plenty of work to do on it to get the templates ready for Wanderfest, which is in 3 weeks. 3 weeks from today. Or is it 4? Anyway, so yeah, moving along quite well indeed. And so until next week when we will finish the Raptor, there's no reason I can't see not to finish that. and go on to round 2 of the Eagle, no pun intended. We will be seeing you next week. So until then, be good to each other, have fun, go outside and play, hug your mother if you have one, and we will see you here next week.